Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Kaylee, I work for Swindon Youth for Christ, and this is Elevate. This is week 11, and this week we are diving into the context of the book of Hebrews to see what God was doing then and what He wants us to do about it now. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. In Hebrews 2 verse 18, the author shares that because Jesus himself was tempted, he is able to help us through temptation. Now, the book of Hebrews is a really interesting book because it's clearly a letter, but we're missing the bits where it tells us who it's from and who it's going to. And so we have to make a lot of assumptions, educated guesses to figure it out. And what the general consensus is currently is that Apollos is the one who wrote it. Now, you might remember Apollos from the book of Acts. He was wandering around in Asia Minor preaching about the baptism of John when he came across Priscilla and Aquila, who were co-workers with Paul. They ministered together and they stopped him and taught him about Jesus, and he was so full of passion about it that he went off to Corinth and continued his ministry there. And when we were reading the book of 1st and 2nd Corinthians, we could see that there was a bit of an issue because some people started to talk about, oh, we follow the gospel of Apollos, or we follow the gospel of Paul or of Peter. And Paul had to set them back on track and say, no, there's only one gospel, the gospel of Jesus Christ. But that is who Apollos is, and he was a very skilled teacher, and that's what leads many people to believe that he wrote this letter. The book of Hebrews covers a lot of the same reoccurring themes that we've seen throughout the New Testament. Apostasy, continuing fellowship, living righteously, and loving one another are all themes in this book. But the major theme is showing the reader that Jesus is the superior high priest. Now, why on earth would they be doing that? So, because of the persecution that's happening in the church at the time, it seems as if the people that Apollos, or whoever the author is, the people that he is writing to, are starting to leave the church, saying that they can go back to Judaism because it's still the same God. And the author is trying to call them back to the church. The author spends a large part of this book showing them that even though, yes, they would be worshiping the same God, they would be going to a religion that was missing the most crucial part: Jesus. The whole book talks about how great Jesus is, comparing him to these different levels in the Jewish system. He's greater than Moses, he's greater than the angels, he's greater than your high priest, showing that Jesus is the fulfillment of all of these things. He's the best version of all of these things. He was able to do what all of these groups are not able to do. This is important to have told the audience because they were wanting to go back to Judaism, where the high priest was the intermediary between them and God, was the one who helped them function through their religion, helped them through the steps of atonement and purification and making themselves right with God. The author is showing them that actually Jesus is a better version of a high priest because he is sinless and perfect. The high priests in Judaism at the time, they needed to atone for their own sins. They needed to give sacrifice for their own sins to purify themselves before they could purify others, whereas Jesus lived a perfect and sinless life and didn't need to do that step, and he could intercede for you directly between you and God. Hebrews is a book that calls us higher. It calls us out of the foundations of our faith, simply believing, to the development of our faith, standing in the truth and standing firm with sound doctrine. He's calling us to live out our faith daily, even when we don't see the fulfillment of our hopes, even when there's pain and suffering, even when there's persecution. He's calling us to rally around one another, to support one another, to continue meeting together, and to continue putting our hopes in Jesus, who is greater than anyone. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, our faith is something to be nurtured and grown until it bears fruits, just as we've seen in this book. So let's go again and make the word alive for ourselves this week. Let's not just talk the talk, let's walk the walk and continue elevating our faith together. We'll see you next week. Bye.